Hey everybody, Becca here from Inside the Square. Should be live. I'm down in a tiny little square. It's so tiny. Hi, there I am. Hey everybody. I've got Chris here hopping in, Anchor Virtual Assistants. Good morning to you too. Good morning to everyone. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you're watching the recording, thank you for watching the recording. I'm happy to have you here. Hi, it is 10 a.m. on Wednesday, July 15th. I am Becca from Inside the Square, and I'm about to show you vibe coding for Squarespace. That's right, we're doing it. Now, I made a very special Squarespace website to kind of walk us through this, and I've got my notes over here. I am old school, I keep a notebook at all times. Now, this part is the most exciting part about today. What we're going to vibe code is entirely up to you. I got some wonderful suggestions through email, through Instagram, through some YouTube comments here. We are going to vibe code a feature that doesn't exist on Squarespace together, and you're going to vote on what that feature is. Hey, Angela, glad you made it. Web Concept Arts, hi. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Say hi in the comments there if you want to check in with me. I'd love to know where you're coming in from and what you want to vibe code. That's the fun part. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here really quick. We're going to share this tab right here, vibe coding for Squarespace. All right, and I'm going to move this over here. I'm just going to leave it on the screen. Let me know in the comments what we are going to create today. Now, I got a lot of great suggestions. If you don't see your suggestion here on the list, please add your idea in the comments. I did get quite a few in emails, but these were the top 5 that came through, okay? Blog sidebar was definitely one of the top ones. Countdown timer was a big one. Got to sneeze, hang on. Nope, no sneeze. We're good. Okay. Age verification pop-up was a suggestion that came up more than once. Animated background image. That was a really interesting one. To be honest, only one person suggested it, but it really sparked a cool idea, so I put it on the list. And then horizontal accordion tabs. Now, again, a lot of suggestions were sent in, but I tried to aggregate them all, and these were the ones that came up more than once, except for animated background image, because I got excited about that one. But we're going to do at least one together today. So let me know in the comments what you'd like us to create. Countdown timer was mentioned, but a few people said countdown timer in an announcement bar. So that's a little side detail we could add, which sounded pretty cool. That's something that we definitely should have in Squarespace, because I think it sounds like a great feature for upcoming events and announcements, but we don't have that yet. So something to think about. All right, I got a couple horizontal accordion tabs. Angela said a quiz. Great suggestion. I'm going to write that down on my list here as well. Horizontal accordion tabs is getting a lot of votes. That's exciting. Okay, awesome. So yeah, quite a few good ideas. Let's see if I rearrange it. There we go. Now we can see more of the screen. All right, I'm going to give people a few minutes to hop in and set some votes. So let me set the stage for you for exactly what's going on today in this presentation. The concept of vibe coding in general, okay? Vibe coding is basically describing to AI what we want. Then we have it create the code for us. Now, it's great in theory, but it is tricky in practice because AI doesn't necessarily understand what system we're using and what features we're using. Squarespace has a lot of nuances that make it very different from the way a Show It site is created, or a Wix site, or a WordPress site, or a WordPress site built on the Divi theme. There are so many differences between every platform out there, and it can assume a lot of things. Now, AI is getting smarter every day, and we're teaching it a lot every time we interact with it. The type of platform you're using makes a big difference. I want to let those of you watching this right now know I focus mostly on Claude. I try to use Claude for just about everything that I do, and I do know how to spell it now. That's an inside joke for my email subscribers. There's an E at the end of Claude, and I'll get it right in the future. And when I use Claude, I don't actually use Claude Code. That's an advanced thing here. We don't necessarily need that for creating vibe coding features for Squarespace. There are some instances that you might, if we want to get real complicated and technical, but rest assured, this is something we can do in the chat. Now, the tricky part is understanding exactly how to describe what you need in a way that will work with Squarespace. Now, Squarespace itself, it's making updates all the time. We've got a lot of new features, animations and transformations. That's a big one. We can do little things like scoot text over a little bit using just pixel by pixel moments. We can have things fly in or change on a hover. except for the color of a button. We still need to hand code that, which I find pretty interesting. But there are some missing features. And when there are features that you need for your own site or for a client site, we can vibe code those features together. All right, so again, vote now in the comments there. Do you want me to do a blog sidebar today, a countdown timer for the announcement bar, which I'm pretty excited about that one. I think age verification pop-up is a good idea too. That can be a really interesting one that we can vibe code pretty quickly together. Honestly, we could probably do both countdown timer and age verification together. Animated background image. That was just me. Nobody votes for that. That's fine. I might record a video for that later. Horizontal accordion tabs is a great one, but add your idea in the comments. Okay. Let us know what you want to work with, what we're going to vibe code today. Now, I do have something out there known as Custom Cody that a lot of you watching have. Custom Cody is a Claude skill. It's a custom GPT. It's a Gemini Gem, whatever your preferred AI. Custom Cody works there. It was trained on Squarespace selectors, so it understands how to modify the style. It's an AI-powered code generator for Squarespace. You say, hey, Custom Cody, my blog post title needs to be this font and this color. Or, hey, Custom Cody, for my shopping cart, I want to make sure that the checkout button changes to orange on a hover. You tell Cody what you want, and Cody says, I got you. It writes the code because it knows Squarespace. It was trained on all of my educational material, on my blog posts. It was trained on my personal code collection, the Squarespace CSS cheat sheet. It knows what to say. Vibe coding is about modifying the functionality, okay? The way the site works. It's way more than just the way that it looks. And I think that's a really important thing to mention here. Cody can handle the style, no problem. Vibe coding is about interacting with the site and turning current features into exactly what you want it to be. Sometimes creating our own. That countdown timer, that's something that we're going to vibe code separately. If that one wins, I've got to check the poll to see how that's going. But I just wanted to mention that. And I have a quick analogy for you based on some experience here, okay? So kind of personal story, but my 7-month-old is very excited about walking and is pulling to stand a lot. And we needed to upgrade her crib system because what we were using wasn't working. She was ready to climb out. So we built this crib. We got it from IKEA and we built it. And we couldn't get it through the door of her nursery. It was way too big. So we had to take it down, take it into the room, rebuild it. It was a long night, okay? But honestly, I was thinking a lot about the presentation today, and I was talking a lot about how I was going to teach the difference between custom coding and vibe coding. And hear me out. Custom coding is the power drill. Vibe coding, the instructions on how to build the crib. Does that make sense? Like, you totally need the power drill as a tool, but the vibe coding, that's the skill. That's understanding how it fits together and how it works. Now, we can assist AI by giving it the right prompts and getting it through this, but vibe coding is the skill of modifying the functionality and knowing what to ask. So that was probably TMI, but that was definitely a fun evening there. But anyway, so go ahead and vote in the comments. I'll hop back in and check. We've got blog sidebar, countdown timer, age verification pop-up, animated background image, horizontal accordion tabs, and some good ideas. All right. Okay. So we've got quizzes here. That's coming up a few times. I'm going to take a little note. We've got quite a few for quiz happening here, and horizontal and sidebar. This is awesome. All right. Sidebar. Animated background. Thank you, Anchor Virtual Assistants. I was excited about that one too. If we're the only two that vote for that, it's okay. I'll do a video about that later. All right, we've got a lot for quiz and a lot for, countdown timers showing up too, and accordion tabs. Okay, so the winner up right now is actually the quiz. Secondary is the accordion tabs, and third is the countdown timer. Okay, we've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. So I'm going to let you guys get your last votes in. We're at 10:10. We'll let it go for 2 more minutes. So if you haven't voted yet, we've got a lot of people on here, so let me know. Let's see if we need more. We've got the countdown timer definitely being suggested. We've got a few more for animated background image, horizontal tabs, and animated background. That's okay, Karen. You can vote twice. I'll let you do it. And we definitely have some quiz comments here. A quick question, what AI model am I using? I prefer to use Claude. Claude Fable is definitely limited usage right now, and I've used it for a lot of things. But if I'm being totally honest, we don't need that much power right now. Using something as simple as Sonnet, even Opus could work. Haiku can also work if we're not getting too advanced. but that'll probably take a longer time to get a response. So for Claude, I'm going to be using probably Sonnet for this today. But I do think that Fable, while it's great, it's just too much. We don't need that much power behind what we're working on today. So I hope that helps. And again, I'm a big fan of Claude, but these techniques you could absolutely use with ChatGPT or with Gemini as well. Any other AI platform out there that understands the basics of coding, but I'm definitely Team Claude over here. CLAUDE. All right. So real quick, as you guys are getting in your last votes there, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and hop back to my presentation here. These are the 3 questions that I ask before I start to vibe code. Okay. The 3 questions that I ask are, is this a setting I can modify? If it's a setting I can modify, like adding a background color or a border, Squarespace gives us a lot of those features built into the platform. Inside content blocks, we can add backgrounds to text blocks, to forms. We've got a lot of features there that are being added on a regular basis. Things like borders, skewing, and rotating. For example, if you wanted to have a vertical line in Squarespace, you could use a shape block, shrink it down to be 1 pixel, and either rotate it or just pull it to be full height. You ever think about that one? We got some cool new features there to work with, right? So is this a setting you could modify? Probably doesn't need to be vibe coded, or maybe you just need custom Cody to write a little bit of style code for you. Now, we also have the question of, can I write a quick style snippet? So again, if it's something simple, maybe Cody can do it. My favorite example of all time, changing the color of a button on a hover. That's a custom Cody job. You need to know what specific button. Is it a header button? Is it a newsletter submit form? Is it a list section? Is it an item inside a list section? You've got to get really specific with the type of button, but Cody can write that for you in a second. And for those of you who have been writing code yourself for a long time, you can probably create that yourself. If you know the selector or have my cheat sheet, you're good to go. So if it's a quick style snippet, we're not vibe coding. But is it a feature I could modify? That's the 3rd question here. If it's not a setting, if it's not a style snippet, you need to think about, what features could I modify? Okay, so this involves thinking about how Squarespace itself works. What is something you could modify? So a great example would be maybe the countdown timer. That's something we could put inside an announcement bar. We don't need to necessarily create the announcement bar feature. That's already there. We just need to create a timer that goes into that container. Okay. So another great example, on one of my sites, I actually run tutorials.squarespace.com. And if you go there, you'll see a blog sidebar. In that blog sidebar is a search field. And guess what? I didn't create a search feature for Squarespace. I didn't build a search functionality. What I did was recognize that when you use the search feature in Squarespace, it generates a URL that contains your query, and that populates the site. Let me show you an example here, because I realize this is, let's see, let's go to my tutorial site. I'll do this in incognito tab. Why describe it when I can show it, right? All right, I'm going to share this tab. Now, if we go to, for example, one of the setup articles on my Squarespace tutorials, we have search tutorials, and here I can say form and click this. This sidebar here is something I totally vibe coded, 100%. I'll click the search option, and what it's going to do is go to the URL that's tutorials.squarespace.com/search Q equals and have my query there. This triggers the search results page, but I didn't create the actual search feature. So again, I've got that here as a sidebar in all of my blogs. This right here looks like a search feature that I didn't have to create. I used the feature that already existed inside Squarespace. So I hope that helps. Let me go back to sharing my example here. Let me know in the comments if that makes sense. We really got to think about what feature to modify. That's a really important part of this. Okay, we've done almost 15 minutes here. We better get to vibe coding. It looks like countdown timer, quiz, and then top 3. Otherwise, we will cover that in a future vibe coding session. I've got 3 of those scheduled for the end of the year for my Beyond the Basics students. So don't be sad if yours didn't make the cut. We'll build your idea soon. Okay, so let's get into this. For the quiz, should we start with that one, or should we start with, let's just do the countdown timer nice and quick. I think that sounds like a good idea. Okay, we'll do the countdown timer, then the quiz. Oh, it looks like my voice is breaking up a bit. Sorry about that, guys. How's that? All right. Angela had a quick question. Are we planning to have this be editable in Squarespace, or does it have to be updated in Claude? That's a fantastic question, and it depends on what we're coding. If it's features that we're modifying inside Squarespace, we should be able to manage updating the code ourselves. All right, got a heads up that my voice is back. Thanks, guys. All right, so Angela will definitely treat that on a case-by-case basis. Is it editable in Squarespace or updated in Claude? Let's go ahead and... Okay, a lot of people are saying horizontal accordion tabs. We're going to do that one instead, but let's start with countdown timer because it's nice and easy. We'll do an easy one, then we'll jump into accordion. Everybody good? Give me a thumbs up if you're good. I think we should hop into it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open up Claude over here, and I will share this tab. Let me just get it going for us. I love that Claude knows that I love coffee. That's pretty awesome. All right, so we're going to say, hey, Claude, spelled correctly. There you go. We need a countdown timer for my Squarespace announcement bar. And I didn't spell announcement correctly. Perfect. All right, now this is where it gets important. We need to describe what we want, but we really need to get in the details. Telling it I need a countdown timer, that doesn't do anything. What am I counting down to? What is it going to say when the countdown is up? How are the numbers displayed? Are we doing days, hours, minutes, seconds, all of the above? We need to get details. That's one of the core principles of vibe coding is we want to answer the questions where Claude is just going to fill in the blanks for us. Because once it starts filling in the blanks for us, we're no longer directing. We're just taking what it gives us, and it can turn into a hot mess very quickly. So let's get really specific here. Count down to July 21st, midnight Pacific time. And let's say we want it to display days, hours, minutes, and seconds. And now we should also get a little bit specific about how this is going to be displayed. Do we want text before it? Do we want text after it? How about we say add in line with the description text, or I guess I should say announcement bar text, right? Showing up before the timer. Okay. And then we should also make sure it understands how to style it. So it could just show text in there that's going to match the announcement bar text. That's probably what it's going to assume. But what if we want it to look like our H4s, for example? We could say, make this look like our H4 format. Okay. So now we've told it what we want. We've told it the specifics, and we've told it what we want it to look like. But there's one more thing we're forgetting. What happens when the timer's up? Let's think about the functionality. We should have it say something special, right? So when the timer is up, have it display the text, oops, time is up. There we go. Now we've got the details. We've said we need this countdown timer. We've told it where it's going to go. We want it to count down to something specific, how we want it to display. We want it to be in line with that announcement bar text showing up before. We're going to make it match the H4. When the timer is up, we're going to display the text, oops, time is up. These are all the details that we need to add to let Claude know so it doesn't fill in the gaps with code that won't work within Squarespace. Now I'm going to hit enter. I already have my custom Cody skill. Oh, darn, I left it on Fable. Whoops. Well, it's going to be pretty high and go right through all of my stuff, but my custom Cody skill is in here. So it already knows the selectors for finding the Squarespace announcement bar. Now I recognize here I left it on Fable, definitely not necessary. Sonnet is fine for a lot of vibe coding that I do with Squarespace. So just be aware that you don't have to use the super advanced version that I did. It's going to move through that. Let me hop back here in the chat. Everybody's following along. We're doing good so far? Okay, awesome. So again, we're going to make sure that we have something that is a style that we, or a feature that we modify, and we're going to have it make sure that Claude understands exactly where it goes, and Claude knows a little bit more about Squarespace, like the nuances here. Sorry, this is taking a hot minute. I guess my internet's not going very fast. But one more thing I wanted to mention while it's writing that code for us is that yes, you can break things by vibe coding, but you can usually remove what you've added. I put usually. I used to say always, but I put usually because sometimes if you screw up like really badly, you could get in trouble and you might need some support for it. But it's important to remember where you're adding the code and what you're doing. And this right here is something I wanted to mention. The usually remove what you add is very important. We shouldn't be doing anything that dramatically adjusts the features of Squarespace or the presentation of a Squarespace site. I don't recommend doing anything that could potentially remove the headers or footers of your Squarespace website. And I don't recommend installing anything site-wide unless it's something that isn't very heavy. This Squarespace countdown timer in the announcement bar, that's a site-wide feature, but it's only going to affect one small container on our site. So we can add that to our site-wide code injection, we'll be okay. But if you're going to try and do something that has links interact in a different way, adjust the header or the footer or the entire body copy of a page, you should definitely test that on individual pages before you add it site-wide. Just a little pro tip for you there, okay? All right. So it created this for us. We're going to grab it. Let's test it. Let's go into the announcement bar because we don't have one yet. I'm going to search for the announcement bar. We'll turn it on. We'll save it. And we'll go to code injection. And we'll paste it. And we'll save that. And we're not seeing any style here because, yep, we have some custom CSS to add as well. Now you see Claude is walking me through this. Part of that's because it's trained with custom coding. Part of it just knows what to do because I've been talking about it with Squarespace a lot. So we've been training it together. So we'll paste this in our custom CSS and select save. And let's see what happens. We're getting a countdown timer. I can see something's happening here, but the color doesn't look quite right. We told it to match the H4, but we didn't tell it what color to do. So in this case, we could go back and iterate with another prompt, but I know enough about code that I'm confident we can just add a little line here and say, let's make the color a solid white, and we'll make it important. So it picks up on that. Oh, that's changing the P. We need to do all of the announcement bar text. Let's do that. There we go. Now we've got it happening. We've got a countdown timer in there. Now it says DHMS. That's another thing we could go back and say, hey, Claude, why don't you go ahead and make sure it says days, hours, minutes, seconds, or display it like a ticker in an old airport from the 70s, have something that kind of flips down, create a cool animation. That's when we'd want to go back in and continue prompting Claude. At this point, we're getting something pretty basic and it works. So we added the color code here, but right now this is where we could definitely go back in and do some more iterations, but it gave us some working code to start with, adding a feature that didn't exist in Squarespace. So if we go back and we tell it to do more, that's where it starts to get a little bit tricky. That's some stuff that we won't dig in too much today, but you definitely got the basics here for how easy it was to say, this is what we need, this is where it goes, this is what it does, build it for me. Now, again, we needed to change the color. We might want to change the way it's displayed. We might want a little bit of back and forth. That's the vibe part of vibe coding, right? We're going to vibe with Claude here and explain exactly how we want it to work. All right, I'm going to remove that CSS. We'll go back to our code injection. We will remove the countdown timer code so we don't slow down our site here as I'm doing a live tutorial. And I just said to slow down our site here. A lot of code will slow down a Squarespace site because it takes a lot to process. So that's why it's a very good idea that you're only vibe coding the features that you need that work within the features that exist in Squarespace. All right, so let's see here. Claude is my go-to, absolutely. I've got some few comments here. Feel free to hop in and let me know if you have any questions. Access Designs was wondering, how do I make sure it's referencing custom coding? I have custom coding installed as a skill inside Claude. So anytime I ask a question about Squarespace, it knows custom coding is the way to go. This is not a pitch for custom coding, by the way. You can also share some of the core code from your Squarespace site with Claude. That's something that I teach people inside Beyond the Basics, is how to dig through the actual core HTML and JavaScript in Squarespace to give it the root code so it knows exactly what we're trying to modify. But custom coding is great for doing basic things like this because it understands the concept of what the container is. So you don't have to use custom coding for it if you don't have it. You just need to find a way to get the actual root information of the Squarespace system into Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini. I've got a whole module for that in Beyond the Basics, but also custom coding knows the selectors, so we're good there. And Web Concept Arts just had a great comment. Bracket your codes inside comments. I really like that idea. That's very smart. And yes, Claude is my go-to. I have tried Gemini a bit. I like using Gemini for images. If I'm making some fun images, like one of my last programs, I made a bunch of images that made it look like I was on a spaceship because it was called Go for Launch. It was a lot of fun, but I don't really use Gemini that much for code. I do prefer Claude. Claude is my go-to. Claude and I are besties. So I hope that was inspiring and informative for you. That was a quick countdown timer. I'm going to make a note to add this to the description of the video. I'll put a little link in there so you can grab the countdown timer code that we vibe coded together. And you can use, I'll share the prompt that I used and all of that fun stuff. It's saved in my Claude chat there. So we're good to go. All right. So does anyone have any other questions, or should we go ahead and try to vibe code either a quiz or the horizontal accordion? Where are we at? Quiz or accordion? I'm going to grab some water real quick. I think we can do horizontal accordion. I think that's going to be a fun one. I don't see any comments coming through. It might be the internet taking a second. I'll double check on my phone here to make sure I'm not missing anything. Let's see. Oh, Angela asked a great question. Okay, everybody's saying accordion and in capital letters too. I love it. But let's address this really quick. Is there anything we should make sure we do to make sure our vibe coding is accessible? Angela, I'm so glad you asked this. This is where we really need to remember vibe coding is a skill, and it is up to us to direct the AI. AI isn't going to know what specifics we have for making sure a site is accessible. You can even be specific in your prompt and say, make sure it meets accessibility standards. But the truth is, we really need to make sure it does by double checking everything. That's why I try to train my AI when I'm vibe coding. I try to direct it to use the settings already available in Squarespace, using features that are already accessible, features that resize at the 5 different breakpoints that Squarespace has created. I try to be specific about font sizes for specific screen sizes, making sure it doesn't go too small. I try to make sure clickable areas meet the minimum clickable area standard. And of course, one of my favorites, color contrast. So important. I already have color contrast set up in the styles that I have in Squarespace. So I make sure that when I'm creating something or vibe coding it, I want Claude to use what I've already created. So I think that's a really important thing to mention. You are directing it and you really need to be specific. Okay. All right, cool. So we're going to move on. Accordion block is the #1 requested here. So let's go ahead and just make a new page. I'm going to add a blank page. There we go. We'll call it accordion. Now, here's where it gets a little interesting. There are 2 ways we can go about this, thinking about the features of Squarespace. We can use an accordion block, or we can use a list section if we want something to take up the whole width of the page. That could be an interesting trick right there. So let's think about how we're going to design this. Oh, I've got one more question. How do you feed Claude about the Squarespace structures, basic instruction before vibe coding? That's something where we actually dig into the core code behind Squarespace, because we want to make sure that it reads exactly how it's set up through JavaScript and through the CSS. That's something that you can do using the developer tools available in Chrome. I think we can do it with Safari as well, but I teach the Chrome specific version because that's definitely my go-to. I'm a Chrome girl myself, so we definitely need to get into the core code of Squarespace to share with it the features that already exist. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. I'm seeing Angela saying list section. I think that's going to be a pretty fun one to work with. All right, so let's go ahead and hop into edit. Now let's add a blank section so we can do both here. We've got an accordion block. So let me add that really quick. There we go. Here's an accordion block. It's going to live in this spot. We can open it up and display the descriptions. But if we want it horizontal, where it goes across the screen instead of vertical, you might think there's some details here into rotating it and rotating content back. But the way the container works, that can be a little bit tricky. We can also do this with a list section. So that's what Angela voted for. If anybody else wants to hop in the comments and vote, let me know. I'm going to add a list section. This is a fun pro tip. If you're a Squarespace Circle member, you can save sections to an account. And I've got a blank list section, so I don't have to go through and delete all the demo content all the time. So here we go. So let's edit the content. Let's add an item. We'll add 4 of them. All right, we've got 4 list items there. We'll select save and exit. Let's hop back in here. I'm seeing list section. That's the #1 go-to. Okay, we're going to do list section instead of accordion. Does that sound good? All right, we're going for it. Putting it on the screen. I didn't make it up. Angela says list, please. Awesome. Okay, so we've got this list section here. Here we go. Now, this definitely gets into what I was talking about using the information inside Squarespace. So we're going to start a new chat, and we're going to say, hey, Claude, because I always introduce myself and say, hey, I need your help. We need to create a horizontal tab accordion in Squarespace using a list section. This section should Got to spell things correctly while I'm typing here. Should always be 100% VW. That's me telling it needs to be 100% of the width of the screen at all times, okay? We want the titles to be vertical, rotated 90 degrees. To the right of the title, display the description text normally. So when the title was clicked and the description is open, that's me describing the functionality here, okay? So we're creating a horizontal tab accordion. It should always be 100% view width, so stretch the full width of the screen. We want the titles to be vertical, rotated 90 degrees, spelled correctly. And then to the right of the title, display the description text normally when the title's clicked and the description's open. Make sure the layout is title, description, remaining titles on the right. Okay, and then when, let's see, when loaded, first description is open, because that way we can make sure it spans the whole width. Or should we leave it closed? What do you think? Then we have to just click on the title. Let me see if we've got some comments here. Oh my goodness, no one can see my Claude chat. I'm glad I double checked. Let's see here. Share this tab instead. There we go. All right, good deal. Okay, I am in the flow. You're totally right. That made me really happy. All right, we're gonna go through with this. Thank you so much for mentioning the Claude chat. We can see it. All right, so I need your help. We're going to create the horizontal tab using a list section. The section should always be 100% view width. We want those titles vertical, rotated 90 degrees. To the right of the title, display the description text normally when the title was clicked and the description is open. Make sure the layout is title, description, remaining titles on the right. When loaded, first description is open. Anything else we need in there? Anything else that we should add that I'm not thinking of for how to do this? We're using a feature in Squarespace that's a list section. That way it's going to be pretty easy to add and rearrange the content. I don't think we're missing anything else. I think we're good to go. Now, I definitely know that Custom Cody is installed here, but for those of you that aren't using Custom Cody, I'm going to go ahead and grab the source code for this list section here so I can make sure that it's using the right thing. I will just paste it here so you can see exactly what we're doing. Let's see. There we go. All right, inside our Claude chat, I'm going to add here is the source code for the section. All right, and it already knows, there we go, all of the details behind it. We'll hit that enter. Dang it, I left Fable on again. You guys should have reminded me. Gosh. All right, different colors. This is a great idea, and images here as well. Ah, thanks. Forgot to remove Fable. Yep, I should have looked at your comments first. All right, we can definitely get into the styles and colors. We should absolutely do this. And this is a great question. Can we give Claude a visual mockup to work from? Absolutely. That's where it starts to get really exciting. I had a client design something in Canva, and I was able to direct Claude and say, hey, Claude, here's this design in Canva. These are the Squarespace features I want to use to create this. Can you write a simple JavaScript and CSS code for me to make it possible? And they did. Now, there was a little bit of prompting back and forth because it tried to use the size and style of everything inside the Canva document. And I should have been able to tell it, hey, I want to use these heading styles, these paragraph styles, all of those things. But you can give it an image to start with, which is pretty great. All right, we're going to change up some of the colors here. We're getting Claude to write it. It's checking all of the things, getting us all of the details. All right, working on a Flexbox layout. It's still going. We're going to get this accordion here. Let me go ahead and hop back into Squarespace so we can share this tab. I will remove this accordion section because we're using a list section, and I think it's going to look pretty awesome. We'll go ahead and select Save and Exit. And I'm going to hop into CSS really quickly because I want to show you a cool thing that we can do using custom code. So we can say list item in child 1. Let's make the background pink. And then we can say list item nth child 2, and we'll make the background green, and nth child 3, and we'll make the background blue. We can adjust the colors individually using CSS. So this is something we can definitely tell Claude to do, or we could add our own little spin on the vibe code ourselves. So I just wanted to mention that. All right, it's got some details for us. We're going to copy this code. We've got CSS and JavaScript. Okay, so let's add our CSS right here. It's going to look real funky for a minute. There we go. And then let's copy our JavaScript, and we're going to hop into the code injection. Let me make sure y'all can see what I'm doing here. Can you see what I'm doing? We've got new comments. Here we go. Yep. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to paste the code right here and select save. It's going to refresh the page. And now we're seeing what we wanted to see. We can click on the item and we'll get the description. It even added in a little flow for us, which I think is really cool. But you see here where some of the prompting failed, okay? I didn't specify I wanted it to be vertical rotated negative 90 degrees. So now we're getting them going this way instead of this way, which is what I would have preferred. We also have the description floating halfway here. I could have said description at the top or description at the bottom. We could have specified the different colors. We could have a lot more details. Maybe when I click on it, I actually want the title to be rotated to the top. There are a lot of behind the scenes things that we need to work on when we're prompting through vibe coding, when we're prompting Claude. And part of the importance of this, or part of the nuances, I should say, is knowing Squarespace and knowing the output, knowing the design that you're going with. You can definitely get going in the right direction, but it's definitely not as easy as just 1-2. You need the skill of directing AI to understand exactly what you're trying to create. Using images is a great technique. Using the source code from Squarespace, that's something that I teach that I think is really important to get something started. But having a core foundation and understanding how Squarespace features work and display, that part is really, really important. So I hope that you guys find that helpful. I thought that was definitely a fun thing to do. Here are the results from Claude. Let's see. Yeah, I pulled that off so I could show you what it looked like in Squarespace. Here are the results that Claude gave us. It created this, listing some of the nuances. It explained exactly what the CSS is that it created, and it gave us some JavaScript to do it. And it kind of explains how this is working. It also says one more heads up on mobile, all of this stuff. It is using custom Cody to let me know how the breakpoints are working, but that's something that we as Squarespace designers can kind of prompt it through. We can let it know maybe at the 767 breakpoint, we want to make sure that it's vertical instead of horizontal, and we can reset the code there. Those are the kind of things that we can definitely prompt through Claude. Okay. There we go. Are we good? Awesome. So yes, you can definitely make sure that you share Claude an image of what you're trying to create. We can definitely get into it. We've got, instead of clicking on each item, can it work by rolling over each? Absolutely. That's something we can prompt Claude through vibe coding. So we'll definitely want to make sure that we have this initial part, and the skill of vibe coding is really easing it through the process so it understands exactly what we want. I made a little thing on the homepage here for this presentation. Let me scroll down to it. Here we go. We describe, we prompt, we test, we refine, and then we ship. Okay, so this is the part right here. We got through describing, we got through the prompting, we tested it. Now we're at the refine stage. And I'm not going to spend this whole live refining the whole process. There are definitely some nuances that as a designer, we know exactly what to say. And as a Squarespacer, it's our job to use the features and functionality built into Squarespace to properly refine the code. This is this is definitely some of the details that I get into when I'm talking about using the source code to prompt it, when I'm talking about breakpoints, when we talk about knowing the features that are there. Another great example is this suggestion. Let's see here. This suggestion of having it work with just rolling over each. We can do that, but we need to make sure that we stop it at the proper breakpoint for tablets, because tablets and mobile, they don't have cursors. We've got to make sure that we are stopping at the appropriate breakpoints. Knowing Squarespace and having the skills as a designer is exactly how we get through that. Okay, and let's see here. Got a question here. We can ask it for a downloadable version of your snippet. Heck yeah, tell Claude exactly what you want and you can get it. So I want to go back here and talk a little bit more about vibe coding, just to make sure we understand the difference here. Vibe coding is describing what we want to AI, having it create the code for us. And it's our job to make sure that we're using existing features to fill in the gap for missing features. And it's our job to make sure that we're directing it in the right way. We're modifying functionality, not just style, and we're directing it in the right way. So it's still accessible, it still works within Squarespace, and it still meets the design standards that we need for a website. It's our job to have the skill to teach it exactly how we're going to make this work. Okay. So vibe coding for Squarespace is a lot of fun. I use Claude for this. I'm very, very excited about it. Definitely lots of fun stuff to check out there. So I really want to encourage you to think about, can you modify it with the setting? Can you write a quick style snippet? What can we do to make sure that we are able to create this with stuff that already exists for Squarespace? Okay. So I hope that that's helpful. I hope that you're inspired by this. We definitely have a lot of fun things that we can create. AI has really changed the game for us designers. Now, when AI first came out, I was a little nervous about it because I genuinely thought it was going to replace me, right? It could write CSS. Who would want to watch my videos anymore? Did Inside the Square even need to exist? But the truth is, what it did is it gave us all a superpower. Okay, we now have this superpower where we don't have to go and get a computer degree and understand all of the nuances of JavaScript and CSS and how that all works within the Squarespace features. We don't need to have all of those skills. We need to have the design direction and use AI as the tool to bring our designs to life. Okay. Now, if you want to go deeper on this, I do have a program that I'm trying to finish up here. Saying trying because I haven't launched it yet. It's happening. Enrollment closes on July 21st. I want to run through this with some Squarespacers that are interested in vibe coding to make sure that this is a concept and a skill that I can teach the way I'm envisioning teaching it. So in that course, I'm having live vibe sessions with my students. We're doing one-on-one time like this where we create what they want. We really hone in on the skill. So if you want to be a part of it, we're going to build those runner-up features, the ones we didn't talk about today. Beyond the basics, insidethesquare.co/beyond. That's my whole pitch. But that wasn't the point of this. This live was here to show you that vibe coding for Squarespace is possible if we are specific in what we describe, if we're using Squarespace features that already exist, and we've got to be willing to refine it in the right way before we ship it. It's our skill to add that design layer to it. Now, again, I use Claude. You can use ChatGPT, you can use Gemini, whatever you're comfortable with. Claude is my preferred method there. So I really want to mention that, okay? Now, it's definitely a fun thing to play with, but please be careful. Yes, it can potentially break your Squarespace site when you vibe code, but you can usually remove what you add. But knowing how to test within Squarespace, that's a whole lesson inside Beyond the Basics that we'll get into. Knowing how to test within Squarespace is a really important part. We want to make sure that when we're vibe coding, we are not doing anything that could potentially break the way Squarespace works. We're just kind of modifying how Squarespace works. So think about that crib that I had to build twice last night, okay? We're going to use the power drill that's custom coding, but actually the instructions for building something, that's the vibe coding. We describe the end result and AI creates the instructions for us, okay? Awesome. I hope that you found that helpful. I went on a little bit longer than 30 minutes, but we vibe coded 2 things. We made a countdown timer and a horizontal accordion. That was a lot of fun. I hope you guys had fun. I swear I only had 1 cup of coffee today. I just get really excited about teaching this stuff. So do let me know in the chat there if you have any questions about this. Oh, there I am, full screen again. All right. Thank you so much for watching this live. Vibe coding is really fun. I think I should do a few more of these here on YouTube. So please hop in the comments, especially if you're watching the replay. Let me know what you think. Let me know what feature you'd like to do. As always, you can reach me through email, hello@insidethesquare.co. Oh, we've got another comment here that's super important to mention for my Claude fans. Yes, you can use Sonnet for vibe coding. That's what I do all the time. If you want to learn vibe coding with me, shoot me an email and I'll tell you how we can connect, get some little one-on-one sessions. I can run you through my new training program, and hopefully you can get super comfortable with vibe coding and make Squarespace do all the amazing things that you've always wished it could do. I'm very excited to see the potential of Squarespace with those of us that are willing to harness the power of this new tool we have access to. So much fun. Oh gosh, thank you so much for joining me today. This was a real pleasure. I'm really glad you were here. Please let me know again if you watch the replay. Hop in the comments. What should we vibe code next? I'll be doing a few more sessions with my students at the end of this month, and I'll probably do a few more YouTube lives as well because this is way too much fun. Thank you, everyone, and most importantly, have fun with your Squarespace website. Bye for now.